Brother made my life hell, then got my wife pregnant. Now he wants my help after our parents disowned him and left me their $2 million inheritance. That's the story, word for word. And it's mine. If this sounds like some wild Reddit fiction, I wish it were. But I lived through every second of it. Every bitter, humiliating, rage-inducing second. Let me take you back. I was the second son. David, my older brother, came first, and it was clear from the moment I was born that he was the golden child, the favorite, the chosen one. Our parents didn't even try to hide it. He got everything. If I want a new pair of shoes, I had to prove I earned it. David? He just had to mention it once, and boom, they were on his bed by morning. When I was 7, he convinced me to eat a dead bug for $5. I puked. He laughed so hard, he cried. I got grounded for being dramatic. That was my childhood in a nutshell. David was charismatic. I'll give him that. Everyone loved him. He was the kid who smiled at adults and knew exactly what to say to charm them. Teachers gave him second and third chances, even when he cheated. Girls at school loved him. Guys wanted to be him. But behind closed doors, he was a sociopath in training. He'd accidentally break my toys, steal my Halloween candy, sabotage school projects. Once, when I was 13, he convinced me to sneak out with him. I got caught. He didn't. And when my parents found out, he told them I had begged him to take me out. My punishment? Grounded for 2 months. His? We're proud of you for being honest. That was the kind of mental warfare I dealt with every single day until I left for college. And trust me, when I say I left, I left. I applied to the farthest university I could afford, didn't even go home for holidays. I worked through school, took summer jobs, couch surfed when I had to. But for the first time in my life, I could breathe. I wasn't constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting to be mocked or manipulated. I built a new life, slowly, brick by brick. I met people who actually liked me. Not for what I could offer, not because I was related to someone cooler, but just for being me. And then, in my senior year, I met Karen. Karen was warm, not in a fake, bubbly way, real warmth. She was soft-spoken, but confident, and she had this quiet strength that made you want to lean in when she talked. We bonded over obscure horror movies and terrible diner food. She never rushed me, never pried, but she made space for me to open up. It took months before I even told her about my family. And when I did, she didn't say something cliché like, "Oh no, but he's your brother." She just listened, then said, "That sounds really hard. I'm sorry you went through that." It hit me harder than any sympathy ever had. Fast forward a few years, we'd moved in together, adopted a cat, and eventually got married. We had a tiny backyard wedding with just a few close friends. No family. Karen asked if I wanted to invite my parents, but I said no. I didn't want to risk David showing up. That was a boundary I wasn't ready to test. For a while, life was good. The quiet kind of good. Like a lake with no ripples. We both worked steady jobs, came home to each other, and just existed in peace. It felt surreal. Then Karen got pregnant. I'll be honest, I panicked a little. I'd spent so long running from the idea of family. I didn't even know how to picture myself as a dad. But she was patient, and eventually I came around. We were having a baby. A whole person. A clean slate. I thought, maybe this time I could do it right. Maybe this would be the family I always wanted. And that's when I did something I'll always regret. I called my parents. I told them I was married, that we were expecting a child. And I thought, maybe, just maybe they'd changed. To their credit, they were surprised, but seemed genuinely excited. My mom cried on the phone. My dad said he was proud of me, which I think was the first time I'd ever heard those words. They asked if they could visit. I said yes, cautiously. They flew out a few weeks later. It was awkward, stilted, but polite. They brought baby gifts, made small talk. My mom complimented Karen's hair. My dad asked about names. I noticed they never once mentioned David, which made me nervous. But at the end of the weekend, they dropped it casually. Just a throwaway comment. "Your brother's had a rough time lately. Lost another job. We're trying to help, but..." I didn't respond. I didn't want to know. Then came a call. David. He sounded cheerful, like we hadn't spent the last decade not speaking. Like he hadn't spent our childhood tormenting me. "Hey, little bro. Heard you've got a bun in the oven. Mind if I swing by? Would love to catch up." My gut said no. Everything in me screamed no. But Karen, sweet, Hopeful Karen said, maybe it's time. He's still your brother. What if he's changed? So I said yes. Just once. David came over the next afternoon. He was exactly the same, maybe a little older looking, maybe a little more desperate around the eyes, but still smug, still too loud, still magnetic in that manipulative way. The first thing he said to Karen was, "Wow, you are way out of this guy's league." Then turned to me and winked, like we were frat bros. I laughed. Awkwardly. Karen smiled. Politely. He stayed for 2 hours. Told stories. Joked about how wild his life had been. Asked if I had any work connections. Said he was in between gigs. I didn't commit to anything. But he kept coming back. He'd swing by just to check on the baby. He offered to fix things, a cabinet hinge, a dripping faucet. And every time he came over, Karen seemed a little off. Tense. Quieter. I chalked it up to discomfort. I mean, she had to be uncomfortable. My estranged brother, a man she barely knew, suddenly inserting himself into our lives. I thought it would blow over. Then I had to go on a quick 2-day trip for work. David volunteered to help while I was gone. Said he'd stop by to check on Karen, bring groceries, whatever she needed. I wasn't thrilled, but Karen said it was fine. I was gone 48 hours. Came back. Everything looked normal. Except Karen. She was distant. Avoided eye contact. Said she was just tired. Then things started to spiral. She stopped letting me touch her. Said she needed space while adjusting to the pregnancy. She became protective of her phone. Started locking the door when she showered, something she'd never done before. She stayed up late. Slept in. I kept asking if something was wrong. She kept saying no, but I knew. I just didn't want to know. Then one morning, her phone buzzed while she was in the bathroom. It glanced over. It wasn't her main phone. It was a second phone. Well, I didn't recognize. That's when the pit formed in my stomach. I opened it, and that's when the world split open. Texts. Hundreds of them. Photos. Late-night messages. Inside jokes. Codenames. Conversations about me. Mocking, cruel things David had said to her. Things I'd told him in confidence. And the worst part? They'd been going on for months. Since before the pregnancy. My hand shook so bad I almost dropped the phone. I took screenshots. Every single one. I didn't say anything immediately. I want to know. I needed to be sure. So I waited. Got a paternity test without her knowing. And when the results came back, 0%. The child was not mine. That was the moment something inside me died. When I finally confronted Karen, she didn't even deny it. She cried. Collapsed. Said David had pressured her. That it was a mistake. That she never meant to hurt me. That maybe the baby could still be mine. I showed her the test. She went quiet. And I left. When I left that house, I didn't look back. I didn't go back for my clothes. Not for the ultrasound photos. Not for the letters we used to write each other in our first year together. I left it all, because staying any longer, even one more hour, felt like poisoning myself. I could still smell his cologne on the couch cushion. For 2 weeks, I went completely silent. No calls, no texts, no emails. I told my boss I needed personal leave and checked into a cheap extended stay hotel just outside the city. It wasn't great. The walls were thin and the water pressure was terrible, but it gave me something I hadn't had in weeks: silence. At night, I'd sit on the floor with a bottle of something I couldn't afford and just unravel. Not even cry, just sit in that dull, throbbing kind of pain that wraps around your ribs and doesn't let go. I'd stare at the ceiling and think, how did I not see this coming? Because the truth is, deep down, a part of me did know. I knew what David was. I knew what he was capable of. I just didn't want to believe someone could do that to their own brother. Not again. I thought maybe, just maybe, people grow up. People change. They don't. One night, I got a call from my mom. I didn't answer. Then my dad. Still ignored. Then my mom again, this time leaving a voicemail. She was crying. Hysterical. Not because of me, no. Because David had confessed. He told them. Everything. About the affair. The baby. How it just happened. How he didn't mean to hurt anyone. And now, apparently, he was devastated that I wasn't talking to him. She begged me to forgive him. He's your brother. He's your blood. This is tearing our family apart. I listened to the whole thing in silence. Then deleted it. The next day, I got an email from my dad. Just a few lines. You've always been the rational one. I know this hurts, but don't throw away your family over one mistake. Think about your future child. It's not the baby's fault. That line made me physically ill. The baby, his baby, my brother's baby. That's when I realized they didn't just want me to forgive David. They wanted me to raise his child, to pretend like nothing happened, to sweep it under the rug, because to them, David was still the golden son. I didn't respond. I didn't even tell them about the divorce proceedings. I figured they'd hear eventually, and they did. About a month later, Karen reached out again, this time through a mutual friend. She wanted to meet, just to talk. I almost said no, but some masochistic part of me agreed. I needed closure, I told myself. I needed to see her face when she explained how she could do what she did. We met at a cafe, public place, neutral ground. She looked thinner, pale. Her hands trembled as she stirred her coffee. I almost didn't recognize her. She said she was sorry, that she'd messed everything up, that she was scared and confused and David had taken advantage of that. I asked her, why him? She didn't have an answer. Or maybe she had too many. I think she tried to spin it like he made her feel seen, like I was too emotionally closed off. Like somehow this was my fault. I asked her if she loved him. She said no. I asked if she loved me. She didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. We finalized the divorce 2 months later. She didn't fight me on anything. I gave her the house. I didn't want it. She moved out of state eventually. I never saw her again. As far as I know, she kept the baby. I never saw it. Never wanted to. I went back to therapy, slowly rebuilt my routines, started working again. The pain dulled, but it never fully left. I walked past a baby store and feel my throat close up. I'd see a brother and sister laughing at a park and feel sick. Grief has a way of slipping into the cracks when you least expect it. Then one day, maybe 6 months later, I got a letter. Not an email. A literal, physical letter. With my parents' handwriting. It said they were sorry. But not to me, to him. It said they'd given David one last chance. Let him move in temporarily while he got back on his feet. That he was working part-time, trying to be better. That they hoped one day we could all be a family again. I almost laughed. Because for all the pain they put me through as a kid, I guess I thought maybe this would be the thing that made them finally see him clearly. Nope. They were still trying to fix him. Still bending over backwards to protect him. I threw the letter in the trash. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I blocked my parents. No calls, no emails, no visits. I went full no contact. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. I spent the next year doing everything I could to move on. I traveled a little. Tried online dating, disaster. Took up swimming again. Relearned how to enjoy silence. I didn't talk about David. Didn't bring him up to friends. Didn't even say his name. Then, 2 years after the divorce, my mom died. A heart attack. Sudden. No warning. My dad left a voicemail. I hadn't heard his voice in so long it felt foreign. He said he understood if I didn't come to the funeral, but that your mother would have wanted you there. I went. Not for him. Not even for her. But for myself. The funeral was small. Some extended family. A few old neighbors. And David. Of course he was there. He came up to me in the parking lot afterward. Hair slicked back, suit a little too tight. He smiled like nothing had happened. Hey man, you look good. I said nothing. Listen, I know it's been weird between us. I walked away. Later that week, I got a call from a lawyer. My mother's will had gone through probate. They needed to schedule a reading. I was surprised to even be included, but I went. Turns out, she'd left everything to me. Their house, their savings, some investments I didn't even know they had. Total value? About $2 million. And nothing, absolutely nothing, to David. The lawyer paused before continuing. Your father has signed off on it. He supports the division. He told us, David has had enough chances. I sat there stunned, because for the first time in my life, it felt like they finally saw what I had always seen. The golden boy had fallen, and I was left standing. A week later, David showed up at my door. Not metaphorically, literally. He looked tired, angry, desperate. He said he'd been counting on the inheritance. That mom promised she'd help him with a business idea, that he was behind on rent, that he had a kid to feed. I didn't say anything. Then he said the line that nearly broke me. Come on, man. You got what you wanted. You won. Why are you still trying to punish me? One, like this was a game. Like I wanted any of this. I told him to leave. He tried guilt, begging, threatening, said I was tearing the family apart by letting money come between us. I told him, finally, after all these years, you tore this family apart a long time ago. I'm just not pretending anymore. And then I closed the door. And I locked it. And I sat on the floor, shaking. But for the first time in years, maybe my whole life, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like a shadow. I felt free. So yeah, my brother made my life hell. Then he got my wife pregnant. Then, after all that, he came crawling back when our parents disowned him and left me their entire $2 million inheritance. And I don't feel guilty for a second. Because forgiveness isn't owed. It's not some prize you hand out just because someone says, I'm sorry, after shattering your life. And family? Family isn't about blood. It's about trust. It's about the people who show up for you when everything falls apart. Not the ones who cause the damage and expect a seat at your table anyway. I built my life from the ground up. I earned every piece of peace I have now. Not by being perfect, but by choosing to heal, by learning when to let go, and who to walk away from, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. I took the pain, the betrayal, the years of being overlooked, and I turned it into something solid. Something quiet. Something mine. And I'm not giving that up. Not for guilt. Not for pressure. Not for the illusion of family. Not for anyone. Not even my brother. Because some doors once closed should stay that way. And some lessons come with a cost. But they're worth every cent if it means finally choosing yourself.